Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Off Ramp. I am your host, Thomas Jason Anderson. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope everyone's having a great day. Man, it's a beautiful day here in South Florida. Welcome from Miami. We're down here in Miami. Yeah, another day in paradise. Um, yeah, man, beautiful day down here. Lots going on. Crazy world. Hopefully, I can bring you guys a little bit of an off ramp from the bizarro political world we're seeing right now. But with that in mind, I've had a few requests. And so one of the requests that I had was about Marco Rubio and my stance on him being a good president for Cuba and a better explanation for it. And I'll give a slightly better explanation here, okay? And the reason why I want to focus on this is because it's a good example of what I mean by the off ramp, off ramp politics. It's also a good example of the future that we're headed into, where these are the discussions we need to be having because that's the type of world we're living in right now. All right, we're this isn't the days of past, okay, where uh, someone like a Marco Rubio, it'd be impossible for him to be president of Cuba. No, man, this is a possible. This can happen. This is for real. And instead of being scared to talk about it, we need to talk about it. Okay. We need to say, hey, you know what? This is a possibility. Look, if I said before, if Maduro could be snatched in the middle of the night and brought into the United States to face charges, Marco Rubio can be president of Cuba. I'm telling you guys now. So, yeah, there are rules. And yeah, I'm not saying that he has to be forced onto the people of Cuba. What people are I think what people are mistaking from where as 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 far as where I'm coming from, I'm not speaking from the same zone that the general public is speaking from. I'm not speaking from the same zone that other people with platforms have that have spoken on this issue. I'm speaking from the off ramp here. And this on the off ramp, this is outside of the normal political conversation, but it's a part of the world we're in. Okay. And so what does that look like from the off ramp? Okay. What it looks like is this. I'm on the off ramp and I'm looking out over to on the highway, which everyone is on right now. And that highway is called the Cold War. Okay. It's the Cold War highway. And the highway is over. It's done. Like there's nowhere to go on that road. It's over. Okay. Like whatever the Cold War was, that's what it was. The times we're living in now, we're past that. In other words, we're the part of reality we are in now is post Cold War. Straight up. It's over now. We're in that zone after the Cold War ended. And for looking from that perspective and understanding that everyone who's still on the Cold War highway, which is everyone practically in the media, in politics, and everywhere else, even the general public, yes, from the Cold War perspective and the Cold War highway, Marco Rubio being president of Cuba doesn't sound like a good idea. But when you get off of the Cold War highway and you're off into reality where we are now, which is after the Cold War, post Cold War, it's a totally different world now, especially for the island nation of Cuba, especially for the United States, especially for everyone in this region. Okay. The entire board changes now. It's what we're seeing now are the beginnings of a new world in this region. That's the off ramp perspective here. So coming from that perspective and understanding that, oh, the Cold War is over, we're into a new zone now. In this new zone, there are new rules. And part of those new rules are people like Maduro can get snatched in the middle of the night, like out of nowhere. Okay. These are the new rules. And so now that we have these new rules and all of the old ideologies that were attached to the Cold War, like communism, that's over. The Soviet Union, over. The United States as we knew it, all these it's different now. We are expanding our territory. We're down in South America now. We're headed up to Greenland, right? We are in this new post Cold War era. America is shaping up to be a nation that is expanding its territory beyond our normal borders. That's where we are now. And so in that world, and if you look at who the other old players were, the Soviet Union, it's no more. It's now Russia. But Russia really isn't heavy the way it was in this part of the world. It can't because they're too preoccupied with the crap in Ukraine and their fight with their cousins, the Europeans, right? China's always been in there in an economic way, but that can continue regardless. That really won't change, right? And so we're in this new place where America is the new only real power in the region, and we're expanding our territory, and we're coming with the approach of comply or die. Literally, Maduro didn't want to comply. We went and got him. So in that environment, how does Cuba as a Soviet Union satellite state survive? It doesn't. It's impossible. It can't survive. It will not. There's no ideological underpinning for it to survive. There's nothing. There's no foreign nation outside there to help it survive. They're on their own. It's the post Cold War world. They're not in a position where they have Fidel Castro using the island as leverage for the Soviets to put pressure on John F. Kennedy. It's over, man. Those days are gone. That's never going to happen again. The Russians aren't really involved anymore physically. They're too busy in Europe. It's over. And so, in this new world, in this new realm that it's hard for people to understand and figure out because we haven't been here before, this is all brand new. I'm telling you, in this new world, Marco Rubio can and will be the president of Cuba. I'm just telling you guys, Cuba is too important to America and to the region and to the world not to be led by someone everyone feels comfortable with, including the Cubans themselves on the ground. And people will say, well, why would the Cubans on the ground feel comfortable with Marco Rubio? Well, one reason is he's family and he loves them. He does. The problem that he had with Cuba was the leadership, which were psychotic, crazy people. All right. And in the end, for Castro, it was psychotic, crazy man in diapers. I'm sorry, but that's who he had a problem with. Marco Rubio does not have a problem with the people of Cuba. He loves the people. Those are his people. So I'm telling you, when someone, yeah, he may be in exile, but he's one of them. If he's coming back home with love, caring for his country, and he's coming there with a boatload of economic support and all types of other support, and immediately the country is in a much better place. Immediately they're thriving, not just barely surviving. I can see him being elected as president. Yeah. Everyone's thinking, well, it'll be a disaster because he's terrible. Well, you guys don't know that. Like I said, in the old world, maybe he'd be terrible. But in the new world, post Cold War, if he's the president of that island, like that's their island. That the Cubans will control it and they will control it to where they want it to go. They won't have a dictator on top of them. And they sure as hell won't have the United States government on top of them because we are in no position to be on top of them. That's why a guy like Rubio will become president because we don't want to be on top of these people, anybody, anywhere. That's what people need to understand that in this new Cold War, post Cold War era, America is emerging as a nation that does not want to be on top of on the other nations. That's not what America wants. Now, people are saying, well, you took over Venezuela and you're on top of them. Not really, because the same guys are running the place that were running it before. Okay. I don't, the America that's emerging post Cold War is an America that doesn't want to micromanage economies and try to rule over people every day of the week. No, it's more of America of influence. We want to have our influence felt. And if we have to bring the military to do it, we will, right? But it's not one in which we're looking to dominate peoples all over the place and make them bow down to the capitalist gods. It's not like that, bro. We're not like that. That's not what's coming out of here. I'm sorry, it might look like that, but that's not what's happening. And so, with that said, yes, I can totally see a President Rubio, and I can totally see him being accepted by the Cuban people because we are out of the Cold War. We are in a new realm. We're in a place now where this is no longer Cuba as the satellite nation of the Soviet Union fighting for the Soviets over half a world away. That's not the case anymore. That's not what's going on here, right? And so they're in need of help. They have their own brothers and family 80 miles away in Miami ready to help. The American government is in a position to make it so that they can help. And I'm telling you, they're going to do their thing, the Cuban people, and they're going to be just fine. And they're not going to need all kinds of crazy assistance, and they need our military to. They're not going to need all of that. I believe it's going to go pretty smooth. My opinion. Just knowing what I know, living with the Cuban people my entire life here in Miami, I'm pretty sure it's going to go pretty smooth. Believe it or not. That's my take. So with that said, hopefully that explains more why I feel the way I do about about Marco Rubio being president of Cuba. Um, to Guyana, right? And this is important because the U.S. authorities, there are now new news is breaking that U.S. authorities are investigating and have investigated and questioned a high-ranking police officer within the Guyana police force who was in charge of like special investigations and murders and things like that. And so apparently the news is breaking that he's been stopped, that he was a man, individual named Caesar. He was stopped by U.S. authorities and questioned apparently on his way to India and back. Um, Now that's interesting. Like I said yesterday, I pointed out, hey, if you want to see who's on sanctions, you can go straight to OFAC. Well, this is one of those middle ground things. This is a rumor. It's probably true. I'm not saying rumors are wrong, but it's a rumor and it's not coming. We're not seeing any sanctions or anything official happening on a government end. But what we are hearing is some type of investigation happening. And that's very significant for the people of Guyana because anytime the US government feels that it needs to question someone in a high ranking position within the police force or who had a high ranking position, that's a big deal for your country. That means that for some reason we have zeroed in on the corruption being there in the police force. And being if that's the case, then this isn't going to be just one police officer. This will spread throughout the government because it's never with the police. It's never the one police officer or whatever, the leader of the it's never. It's always very political if there's corruption within the police and that political corruption extends everywhere. And it's usually some really sad and really bad stories are attached to this type of corruption. So, that's what I see there. I don't know what's happening. I know that the guy had connections to certain people in the country. We will see where it goes, but that's a pretty serious deal when you've got the U.S. government investigative authorities going in and questioning someone of that high level within the government of Guyana. That speaks to things being very, very serious and getting even more serious, right? So I would keep my eye on that if I were you guys, and also keep in mind too that the U.S. government has some experience when it comes to uh, any type of corruption with India. You can go back and see that we arrested a Russian Ukrainian man named Dmitry Firtash, who was in India trying to broker deals for titanium to be mined in India. And he was accused of bribing government officials in India. So this is a Russian Ukrainian bribing government officials in India the United States, that we ended up bringing up charges on for Foreign Corrupt Practices Act because it was related to a US company, Boeing, right? So we actually have people on the ground, investigators who are active and who are experienced with this type of stuff. So when you hear someone like that being interviewed or questioned and they're going in and out of India, then think about Russia, oil, Ukraine, like that, those types of investigations. Okay. Because that part of the world, that's what those guys are experiencing. I'm just showing you like some of the past work they've done and that they're currently on. Yeah, that's deep into Russia stuff. All right. So who knows what's really going on there, but that's where I would keep my eye on that. So you got that there. And then you've got the other issue, right? So once again, thanks again, guys, for coming, showing up. Hey, leave some comments. Come in and join with me if you have any questions. But this is the Off Ramp Politics. I am your host, Thomas Jason Anderson, and hopefully you guys are having a great day. Um, I'll tell you this. I've got in my garden now, in our garden, we've got blue bees. I don't know if you guys have heard of those blue bees, but literally they are blue and they are bees. And apparently I looked it up. They're very rare. They don't live like honeybees in hives. They are solitary. So they put their eggs in some place safe and they pack it with pollen and they live life like that. But yeah, so blessed to have some blue bees in the garden. I was shocked to see blue bees. I didn't even know they existed. So yeah, that's the beauty of gardening, right? You never know what's going to come out of there. But yeah, we've got blue bees now. But moving on to what's happening here in American politics, and this is important for the off ramp and just having a good perspective on what's happening. Like I've been saying about the region down here in the Caribbean and in South America, but America is expanding also into Greenland. We had officials from Denmark and Greenland come into the White House today to meet with Trump to discuss the acquisition of Greenland. And apparently, Trump has offered so much for the country, for Greenland, that it's more than Denmark's entire GDP. So this sounds like a pretty serious thing. Um, I expect us to get Greenland. I do. And the reason why I expect it is because what Trump continues to say is he's saying, "Hey, we have a problem with the Russians and the Chinese accessing the Arctic through this corridor here with Greenland, and that's a security problem, and it is a security issue." So we're like getting boxed in from the Pacific side and from the Atlantic side like that, and that's not a good thing strategically. So it looks like we're going to go and we're going to get Greenland. And that's where we are now. I'm going to say it again, guys. Like, this is the off ramp. I'm trying to explain to you that we are in a post Cold War world. Most of the world is still stuck on the highway of the Cold War. But anyone who thinks about it knows that era is over. That highway is done. It's the waste of time being on it. Get on the off ramp. And on the off ramp here, where America is expanding territory, I'm telling you, Greenland is probably going to become a part of the United States. And it's going to go from there. Trump is going to push for Canada and Mexico. Like this is happening. I don't know. I feel like people are like in a daze or they're kind of surprised. They're kind of thinking like, oh no, this is Trump's just playing around. He's not playing around. He's serious. Okay. If getting Maduro hasn't taught anyone that he's serious, I don't know what will. Okay. I don't know what will. So he's serious and he's probably going to get Greenland. I'm sorry. Probably going to happen. And he's going for Canada. Sorry, Canadians. He's going for your country. That's just the deal. And Mexico. It's happening, guys. It's happening. I'm not saying I support it. I'm not saying it's a good idea. All I'm saying is looking at this from the off-ramp perspective and seeing that, hey, we're changing eras here. We're leaving this Cold War era and we're building a brand new one from scratch right now as we speak. What is that era going to look like? Well, already I can see that it's a comply or die era right now. And on top of that, America is expanding its territory. That's just what's up. People can argue back and forth on that, but that's just the verifiable facts. And so I go with the facts. I'm not trying to be emotional here. I'm not trying to pitch a certain ideology. I'm not trying to support certain politicians over others or certain parties over others. I'm just pointing out what's going on. And so that's where we're headed. And so, what do you need if you're trying to expand your empire? You need a lot more cash. You need more cash. And so Trump needs cash. And what is he doing? He's pushing the Fed to lower interest rates. And the Fed, led by Chairman Powell, they're refusing to do it because of inflation concerns. And yes, when you're a nation like we are normally, we could have inflation problems. But coming from Trump's perspective and this perspective of an expanding empire, maybe inflation doesn't hit the same if now you have Greenland as part of your country. Maybe inflation doesn't hit the same if you have Canada. You see what I'm saying? Think about it. Now the math changes big time. And so that's why you see the pressure on the Fed because they're trying to force a change in monetary policy to help them expand the empire abroad. That's what I believe is happening. And I think the way Trump wants to do it is through negative interest rates. You heard me right. Negative interest rates. And what that means is when you go to the bank, if you borrow $100,000, the bank will pay you to borrow the money. So every month, instead of you paying the bank is every quarter, they're paying you to borrow money. That's what Trump's trying to do. And I think he wants that because they're trying to expand this empire post Cold War. They need the cash. And so let me pull up a split screen for you so you guys can see what I mean by the by having the situation of negative interest rates, right? Okay, so I'll just pull it up here, and it's real. I'll just do a simple Google search, right? I'm doing a regular search of negative interest rates and Trump, right? Let's see. It's all credit card. Okay, here we go. This is 2020. So as you can see, I just put the video up there. As you can see, Trump back in 2020 was calling for negative interest rates. I'm telling you, he wants negative interest rates. He wants to be paid for borrowing money, but especially if they're trying to expand the empire out and bring in Greenland and all these other countries, they need cash for that. And so he's going for negative interest rates. Like that's what he wants. And he's pushing. And so this plugs into what I was saying before with this comply or die dynamic that's being applied, especially in the United States. Comply or die. I'm not saying physically die. I mean, politically go after you. So Trump has laid it down over and over again. You can see Marjorie Taylor Greene as an example. He demands that people comply. And if you do not comply, then he goes about a methodical way of eliminating you politically. And so so Chairman Powell is standing up to Trump because he doesn't want negative interest rates. He thinks that's a disaster. We will have hyperinflation if we did that, is what he's thinking. And so he's standing up for the nation and the health of the country. Well, in the paradigm we're in now, that doesn't matter what you think is good for the country or the health. And that doesn't matter, Chairman Powell. All that matters is you comply with what Trump is saying. And Trump is saying he wants lower interest rates, lower the damn interest rates. If inflation spikes, then it spikes, bro. But that's where we're at now. We're in a situation now where the leadership, Trump himself, has decided, hey, he knows better. He's the boss. Go and do it. And if you don't, he eliminates you. Comply or die. That's just it. And so that's why you see ICE operating the way they do, because ICE gets the order. They understand Trump very clearly. They understand. Trump is saying, go out there and get the job done. He doesn't give a damn how you get the job done. Get it done. He ain't playing games. And so ICE isn't playing games. They're shooting people in the face to get the job done. You either comply with them or you die. Straight up, literally. And they take it serious, and what Trump expects is for everybody to be like them, including the chairman of the Fed. And so why is he being this way? Many people will ask, why does he have to be this way? What's going on here? Well, what people have to understand is what Trump is doing. This isn't him personally, by the way. All he's doing is plugging into a system designed to do this. That's all he's doing. All right. He's not making up anything new. Our system is designed for men like him to get into the office in the presidency and to rule as a comply or die situation. It's designed to do that. I'm telling you. All right. But here's the thing, our founders knew this. And what they did was they set up two other branches of government with equal comply or die power. And so, even though the executive, the president, can raise the level up to the comply or die level of things, guess what? Members of Congress can too. Guess what? Judges can too. And what we're seeing now is a pushback on that. You're seeing even state government coming in and saying, well, we're going to enforce laws against these ICE guys. And what the states are telling ICE is you comply or die. When you come into our state, you comply with our laws or we're kicking you the hell out. That's what you're seeing. That's how this government is supposed to work. If one branch decides we're going to override the others through a comply or die stance, then the other branches have to step up to the plate with the same comply or die approach. And that's what you will see going forward. So when I say we're in a comply or die paradigm, I don't mean it just that Trump is doing it and he's the leader. No, I mean that in that not only is Trump doing it, but the response from the other branches of government will be in kind. So we're going to see much more of this. Okay. Now, where will it come from? It's going to come from other people who look like Trump and who can battle like Trump. And so, from the Democrat side of things, who would that be? Probably the governor of California, right? Now, I'm not trying to say, I'm not bringing race or anything. All I'm saying is you can look and see throughout the history of America who have been the most powerful people. Now, people can say, well, the reason why certain people were the most powerful is because as individuals, they were that strong. No, no, that's not how it works with the presidency, not in America. It's actually not a very strong position. Okay. It's actually a very vulnerable one. And so when you see a very powerful president in the United States, it's not because of the individual, it's because of the system around them. The system empowered them to be that great and that powerful. And so if you look at the people who have been empowered by the system to be very powerful, just look at who they are. You'll see a pattern. You will. What you won't see, I'll give you an example. So in Gold Bar Bob, I write about this with my co-author Isabel Vincent. We write about how Senator Bob Menendez, would use his position to literally ban ambassadors from positions in ambassadorial spots throughout in embassies throughout the world. That he, as an individual, would say to the executive branch and the president and the secretary of state and the State Department, I'm deciding who's going to be ambassador, not you. And it would happen for him. Okay. But look at Bob. Look at what he looks like. Now, I'll give you an example. Take a guy like Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. You will never see Senator Tim Scott go down and decide that he's going to choose on his own who the judges should be on the federal bench, or he's going to decide on his own who's going to be ambassador to here or there, or he's going to decide on his own who should be the head of whatever agency. You're never going to hear him say that. You know why? Because the system does not empower Senator Tim Scott to do that. It empowers guys like Bob Menendez. It empowers guys like Donald J. Trump. And Trump understands this, and he is wielding this power. And it was there before he got here. This is how it was designed before he got here. Okay. So all I'm saying is I'm looking at what's going on, and I'm telling you, Trump understands his role. He understands the power that he wields, and he's pushing it 100%. It's up to the other branches to do what they're supposed to do. If they lay down, then they lay down. That's the way it goes, and Trump gets his way, right? But they have the power if they have to stand up for their own residents in different states. They have the power in the legislature in Congress to do a lot of stuff. Like I said, Bob Menendez, as a senator, would ban certain ambassadors from serving in embassies as a senator. So these guys have a lot of power. They pretend like they don't. They have a ton of power. They just have to be willing to exercise it. And they have to understand who is allowed to exercise that type of power, right? I'm just saying. Just look at the history, look at it for yourself. This is important to know because as we go forward, as we move forward here, and we see things happen like America's taking Greenland, what's going on? Or we see things like President Marco Rubio of Cuba, that people are floored and shocked that you're, oh, you know what? There have been discussions about this, right? We need to have these discussions. That's why we're having them on the off ramp, because you have to be able to see that, look, the world has changed significantly, especially in the United States. And what seems like is madness is not madness. You just have to get off on the off ramp and look at it from afar a little bit to get the wider view. So with that in mind, I appreciate you guys coming on today. Hey, if you guys, please, if you like, share, leave me some comments. I take requests. So if you guys want me to look at something, I will. Today, when I spoke about Marco Rubio, that was from a comment from a viewer. So please, do that. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. Have a great evening. I will see you guys again tomorrow. Take care.
Now I'ma put it down like that. I'm leaving, I ain't coming back. You don't like the way I act anyway. You really don't have to react. Don't try to change my mind, in fact. Honey, I've already packed all my stuff. We're no longer kids, let's move on. And you are not my kid, so I'm done. Please don't make me pull my gun. Sorry boy, I can't be the one. You know it, yeah. Nothing lasts forever. You know that a change will make it better. You know that nothing lasts forever. You know that, yeah, change will make it better. There's no one to blame, you see. Maybe we're not meant to be. There are plenty more fish in the sea anyway. Every day's a different thing, so I'm not into wedding rings. It ain't personal, it's the way I think, yeah. You know it, nothing lasts forever. And you know